Hello. Hello. Can you tell me what topic did we finish in last session? We started with object orientations, right? And we did when I attended your session on offline. I think we have covered about methods and other parts, right? Okay. So let's start and let's move ahead. I remember from last time we have covered the constructors and the methods in core Java when I visited the college. Now let's start with the instance and local data. Now, when you want to work about instance and local data, yeah, let's open this notebook and continue on this one. So consider you have a class. Consider you have a class, and in this class, yeah, this is let's say your class circle. Now the class circle looks, for example, your class circle is looking like this. Class circle int radius. Then let's say there is a constructor, and then there is a method of let's say public void area, and we are using this radius, let's say float area, is equal to the radius into 3.142f, and then we'll put system.out.println area. So if you look at this particular class, and if I try to make a diagram out of it, yeah, we'll try to make a diagram out of it. So how exactly it will happen is, this circle, we have got radius which is outside here. Then we have got a constructor. Then we have got a method. Now remember, these are the variables now we are talking about. These are the variables we are talking about. So when we talk about this variable, any variable which is outside, in Java, everything will be inside the class. So anything which is outside the constructor and the method is called as what? Instance variable. It's called as what? Instance variable. And if I declare a variable or a constructor which is inside this method or inside this constructor, we actually term it as what? Local variable. Okay, we call it as a local variable. So anything which is outside the constructor or the method is called as instance. Anything which is inside is called as the local. Now, see, so clear, so far clear. Now the thing is, if anything which is marked as local, as instance, can be used across, yeah, can be used across the class, any constructor, any method can use it. But if anything is declared inside this particular class, inside this particular method, the scope will be then defined only till this point. The scope of this particular class or the method will only become this much. Making sense? Yeah. So this is how the instance and the local variable will be used. Now, based upon the various scenarios, there are multiple uses. And if you look at what we have done, so instance data, also called as local variable, declared inside the class but outside any constructor or method. It belongs to each instance of the class, automatically initialized to the default value, contribute directly to the object state. And scope of the life cycle, scope and the life cycle, they are available throughout the class in the method, and each object get its own copy, so they will have all have their own copy, and it will exist as long as the object exists in the memory. So if you look at here, what do you find? See, the radius and the area, they are the instance data. We are using it here, 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 and we are using it here. So here, if you look at the class, the constructors and method, this particular thing will live inside your class. Yeah, they will live inside your class. Now, on the other hand, we also have got the local data. Now, local data, it like a variable which is declared inside the constructor or method, they are used for temporary processing. Yeah, they does not affect the object state permanently, and they have the limited scope. For example, here x, and if you look at this function here now, you can find x and temp result are nothing but the local data. We are using them, and then we are going ahead. So here, this exists, the instance data exists with the object, whereas the local data, they only exist temporarily, and this is how we use it. So if I try to do this practically, how will that happen now? Okay, so here I'll do what, I'll create a, first I will create a new folder, and let me call it as local and instance, sorry, yeah, local and instance variable. Under this, I create a class circle. So in my class circle, I say int radius. Then I have got the circle as my constructor, and I will say this is the constructor of circle. Then I write a method, and I call it as what? Public void area. And then I say float or double of area is equal to math dot pi multiplied by radius multiplied by radius. And then I say system dot out dot println area of circle is plus area, and then I will do what, I'll create another class now. Let me call it as circle runner dot java, and I'll call it as class circle runner public static void main. And here I say what, circle C is equal to new circle, and then I say C dot area. Yeah, C dot area. Now, if I try to execute this, you will find that this will give me an error. Okay, this will give me an error. So let us see how that happens. I'll open a command prompt, and here I say java c circle runner dot java and java space circle runner. See, with this time, what has happened? It is giving me, see, this circle runner is actually giving me an error, not an error, but it is giving me a zero value. Why? Because I did not instantiate the radius. Yeah, the radius value by default, because it is in a local variable, it became what, 0, and then I was not able to use it. What could I have been done is, I should actually either see, you cannot hard code a radius for a circle, then every time it will only keep on uh, doing what, like keep passing on the data for 0, or the, let's say you set up the radius for 30, it will always give you the radius of 30. Now the problem is, you should actually pass the radius with some value here. So either while creating the circle or while creating the area. So what you can do here is, at this time I say int, or okay, you know what, I'll create another method here. I will say public void set radius, and then I say int rad. Okay, int rad, and this time I will say radius is equal to rad. So what will happen, that data will come into this radius object. This is my local instance, this is my instance variable which I am using it here. Yeah, and I'm taking the value from here. So I'll create the circle first, then I'll say c dot set radius, and my radius is, let's say, 10. So that value pass on to what, rad, it will be available here. Then when I call the area, what will happen, because the value of radius was already set, it will now use this value and get the value output generated. Let's see how it happens. So I'll have to recompile. Now when I execute, you will see this time it is saying the area of the circle is 314 point, and so on and so forth. Are you getting this, how it is working? Instance and local variable. Now which is instance, which is local variable here? If I tell you, if I take this method of set radius and the whole class, can you tell me what is instance, what is local variable here? Yeah, what do you think so would be local, what do you think so will be the instance variable here? Anyone? Take a wild guess. What is radius? Is radius instance or local? And what is rad? Is rad local or instance? So if you look at it here, the radius is your, this radius is your instance variable, and this rad is your local variable. Yes, rad is local, radius is instance. Okay, so far everything is good. But now the problem arises. The problem is that we are working on a situation, correct, where radius and rad both are used. But Java asks you to keep the things clear. So what they say is, why don't you keep, like, even this radius, you should name it as radius, so that there will be no problem in the reading of the code. Okay, there should not be any issues in the reading of the code. So they say, why don't you convert it to radius? And I say the radius is equal to radius. The moment I do this, see what is happening here. This say the assignment to the variable radius has no effect. Yeah, the assignment to the variable radius has no effect. In this situation, what happens is, the problem is, see, for us now, can you tell me, is the left side instance or if the right side instance? What do you think? So is the instance variable is the, okay, let's do what is left side local variable, is the left side in this current value, is it the local variable? Yes or no? If you look at it, is the left side local variable or is the right side local variable? Okay, yep, four people voted correct. Okay. Right is local. Okay, Mustafa is saying right is local. Good. See, the right is local, the left is instance. That is correct. But now try to understand. Computer or your compiler will not understand it. For compiler, both of them are radius variable. That is why it is very clearly stating that this is a problem. The assignment to the variable radius has no effect. So for that, even see what happens if I try to recompile and execute now. If I say I want to recompile and execute, see, even though after passing the radius value, I'll tell you what, in JDK 8 or something, what we are using is 17, 18. JDK 8 and so on, they used to have this error. This statement was not allowed. They used to give an ambiguity error. So this was a compile time error. Nowadays, now what they have done is they have changed it. So what exactly we need to do here is, rather than applying the value, see, for us and for the computer, you need to understand there is a difference, right? What we are doing is, here we are saying radius is equal to radius. This is happening inside public void set radius function, where we have got int radius. Now, as we have already discussed, this one is the instance variable, this one is the local variable, correct? This one is the local variable, and this whole thing is happening inside what? This whole thing is happening inside your class circle. This whole thing is happening inside your class circle, and the class circle actually have your class circle actually have your radius value. Class circle actually have your radius value. So what exactly happens here is, now if I want to mark one of them, I will have to mark it by myself. If I have to mark one of them, I will have to mark it by myself. How do I mark it? Yeah, how do I mark it? For marking it, there is, see, when we want to use in English language, we use the concept of pronouns, like I, me, myself. Same way, Java uses a pronoun called as this. When Java says this, it means that I'm planning it to mark on myself. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to say this dot. That means that I am telling this is the instance variable, hence this will become automatically become the local variable. So how can I come out of this error and get this problem sorted? Is I can simply just go here, mark it and say that this radius belongs to my class, which is my instance variable radius, against that other radius. And now see, if I make the change, it will again start giving me the correct value. Are we clear on this? Is this clear, everyone? Now it is working. Okay. So moving ahead, perfect. Yeah. So this variable is a reference variable that refers to the current object, the object whose method or the constructor is being executed. It is mainly used to remove ambiguity between instance variable and parameters when we have the same name. For example, see the same example is used here. We are checking the regular value. We are taking the radius for a circle, and it is what it is doing for me. So I have got circle in radius. Local parameter hide the instance variable. Both the parameter and the instance variable then are named radius. So the assignment of radius is equal to radius. Set the parameter to itself and not the instance variable. So this is how we fix it with this keyword. Yes. So this is the circle in the object variable heap, and this is how we work with it. Yeah. If I want to invoke the current class methods, I can make use of this keyword. Correct. If I want to, yeah, if I then have to add it to the another constructor chaining, I can call it like this. Yeah. If I want to pass the current object as an instance to somewhere, I can also use this keyword C. I will just leave it here for a minute. This is the summary table of usage. Just go through it quickly. Okay. Now, the next is what we have called as static. Static is very important. From the first program onwards, you are looking at the keyword static, right? Every single example you do, it comes with static, correct? You see this? The main method is marked as static. You know what exactly is static? Static is a modifier in Java. Yeah, in Java, static is a keyword modifier used for variables and method that belong to a class rather than to any specific object instance. Yeah, so think of static members as a shared value across all the instances of a class or even accessible without creating an object at all. So static variables are those variables which are available without the instance of the class. They only need class. That's it. They are available at the class level, not for the instance level. So how do we work with that? So how do we work with a class or a static level? Let's see that first. Yeah. See, remember one thing. Static is a modifier. Yeah. Static is a modifier. Anything marked with static have three things by default. Okay, they will have these three things by default. Okay, first they have single copy. Okay, this should be actually the last one. They are loaded when the class is loaded. Okay, so they are loaded before your any object or instance. Then there is a single copy for all. Okay, there is a single copy for all, and they can be accessed using the class name. So how does that look? See, there are three rules which will apply to anything which is marked as static. First is what? They are loaded when the class is loaded. Second, there is only a single copy for all. And third, they can be accessed using the class name. They can be accessed using the class name. So let's try and see how we can put this into action. So consider I want to create an object counter class. So I say public class object counter. Inside this object counter, let's say I create count is equal to 0. Then I say public void increment count. Okay, public void increment count. And then I say count plus plus. Yeah, and then I print that count somewhere. So if you look at my code now, if you look at my code, how will that happen? I will say object counter OC1, OC2, OC3. Then I say OC1 is equal to new object counter, and then I say OC1 dot increment count. Then OC2 is equal to new object counter. That is what OC2 dot increment count. Then OC3 is equal to new object counter. OC3 dot increment count. Now tell me at the end what will be the value of the count. What am I expecting? See, the expectation from this output is what? That it should give me the value of the count is 3. Okay, this is what I'm expecting, right? What do you think so would be the expected output here? Let's see if I put this into action. Let's say what happens, and then let's come back and see how it works. So I'll create another folder, not here, and let me call it as static. Under static, I'll create my file. Let me call it as object counter dot java, and this is the okay. Close all this. Under my object counter, what I do is I say int count is equal to 0. Yeah, my int of count is equal to 0. Then I say public void increment count, and then I say uh, count plus plus, and then I also say system.out.println what is the value of count right now. So the value of count will become what? Count. Then let me create a runner file. Basically, the from where I will be running this, I'll call it as ocrunner.java file, and here say main, and under here I say object counter OC1, OC2, OC3. Then I say OC1 is equal to new object counter semicolon. Okay, don't worry about that. Okay. Then I say OC1 dot increment count. Then I convert that to OC2, and then I'm converting that to OC3. And then what am I expecting is that when I change this value and I say object counter, okay, and then I compile this, okay, for OC runner, you will find the count is 1, 1, and 1. So, do you think so? This is the correct output? Yeah, do you think so? Yeah, this is the correct output. Or if I am getting this 1, 1, 1, can you tell me the reason why? The output I was expecting was what? Output I was expecting was 3, right? It should have been 1, 2, and 3. The problem is whenever I create that object, see here comes the rule. Now tell me what? Let go of that instance or local, like the static part. Tell me, is this an instance variable or a local variable? The count value here, is this an instance variable or a local variable? Anyone? This count, is it an instance or a local variable? Okay. So, okay. Yeah. So if we look at the memory allocation, we will find something. See, we have got object counter. How many objects are created for object counter here? 3 objects were created. Yeah. We had got 3 objects. OC1, OC2, OC3. Okay. And if you look at it, every individual object will have the count variable and the increment count function. Every one of them will have its count variable and increment count function. I have got the count variable and we have got the increment count function. Now what has happened? The individual value was what? 0, 0, 0. So when you call increment count, this becomes what? 1. When you call increment count on OC2, this becomes 1. And when you call count here, this becomes what? 1. This is not something what I was looking for. So that is the place where, if you remember, see, when we spoke about static, it says they are loaded when the class is loaded, that's fine. And it is a single copy for all. So you know what happened when you mark something as static? See, this is the class area, this is the instance area. This is my class area. This is my instance area, instance area, instance area. So anything which is marked as static will actually go inside the class area. So it should become what, like this 0 now, and it will be no longer kept here. It will no longer be kept here. When we mark this as static, and now when you say increment count, this becomes 1. When you call increment count, it will now call this count and it will become 2. When you call here, it will become what? 3. Simple change. Let us see that if that happens. If I go back and I say this is a static count. See, when I make this change, it becomes 1, 2, 3. Are you understanding? Just by making this as what? Static. When you make something of nature static, it becomes what? Single copy for all, loaded when the class is loaded. And remember one thing, I can call it using the class name directly. For example, before I want to start the count, I want to set the counter to 1000. So how can I do that? I can simply say object counter dot count is equal to 1000. So if I do this and if I run this again, you will find the count happens like 1001, 2 and are you getting this? Yep. So two of three things we have already updated. Okay. So if you look at the implementation, this is what it is saying. See, static data is shared amongst all the objects of the class. Only one copy exists at the class level. It is initialized when the class is loaded and it can be accessed using the class name. Okay. So static variables are always kept outside. Yeah, static variables are always kept outside and we can keep on using it here. Now static method as static variable, the method belongs to the class and not to the specific instance. It can be invoked without using the without an object and can be accessed using the non-static data. Okay. So here, what happens if you look at this current example? Uh, okay. So when we want to make a when we make a method static, when do we make a method static? When we do not need to create an object for invoking a method. We make method static. Okay. So for example, if we have a car, now let's say start, stop, and then let's say there is a method called as what name. Yeah. Start is doing what starting the car, stop is doing what stopping the car. Whereas what name is telling us what is the name of the car. Now you tell me one thing, that which function will not require the instance of the car to perform that function. For example, start, stop, and what name. You tell me which function will not require the instance of the car to perform that particular function. Will we require start for to start a car? Do we need a car? To stop a car? Do we need a car? And for getting the name of the car, do we need a car? Which of this function will not require that instance for doing that particular part? Which function here will not require for us to, like, I will not require the car to tell you what is the name of the car? How will that be? Okay, think of it. Which function can be executed without the instance of the car? Yeah, which function will be required for us to do the instance of the car? Okay, now you are getting it correct. Obviously, what name should be the function which will require us not to have the car, right? We can simply just say, for example, if I have a Honda City, I'll say, okay, car name is what? Honda City. So how will that look like in action? See, I go and create car dot java class car. So I can have public void start system.out.println car is starting, public void stop system.out.println stop of the car. And then I am having another function, public string what name, and let's say this returns Honda City. Okay, this returns Honda City. So now see car runner dot java. Now I want to call that what name. Now tell me, if you have a car and if I ask you what is the name of the car, will you require the instance of the car to tell me that what is the name of your car? Do you actually need the object of your car to tell me the name of your car? No, right? That should not be the case. But now, because that method is non-static, what will happen? We'll have to say car c is equal to new car c dot what name, and it will return me the name of my car. String name is equal to something, and then I say system.out.println name of car is plus name, and let me try this. Okay, it says name of the car is Honda City. Now the thing is, see, if you want to start a car, obviously you need a car. If you want to stop a car, you obviously need a car. But if you just want to find the name of the car, you don't need to have the car like this. So what can you do is simply mark this as nature of what? Static. See, you can still do that what you have done here, or else we can do it in this. We can simply just say string name of car is car dot what name. Yeah, car dot what name, and if you say system dot out dot println name of car is Okay, this is where we are doing it with static. Name of car. And if I try to compile and run this, see, I'm getting the same output. But this time I did not require to create an instance of a class. Getting this? Are we getting this? How it worked? Okay. You know what I'll do is all the codes what I've done till now, let me push it to a Git repo so that you people can actually get access to it. Because that obviously that book contains the code, but not all of it. So okay, so I create a new. Let me call it as SYBCA integer with Java 2025. It in the static point. Okay, so if you look at it now, I will share the link with you. It's on the link. Is the link accessible to you? What I've given in the chat. Okay, so this is what you will be. Something you will be doing, and next is you are asking about the practical scenario, right? What we are supposed to do in the practical. So as you know, I have already added the practical links in your. If you can check that out, YCMOU, YCMOU for Java practicals. Okay, okay. So See, you will have to do this all like list of 10 practicals. There are around 15. This 10 you can, these are actually from 1 till 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 and 10. Okay. These are the 10 practicals you can do. Do you want me to share this link? Obviously, most of the, like, I think what we have been here, we are now till practical 4, we are done. Okay. I am sharing this link in the chat window. These are the practical list. If you look any one of them, what will you is you have got this particular links. You have got this particular links. Also, you have got the codes for them. The code link is also here, which is available on my blog. So obviously, I don't know if you will need to try type it out or what. How do you do the practical? Do you write it? Do you type it? What do you do? I guess for most of them, I have done the same thing. Yeah, I have added the links for the codes. See, for every individual class, there is a link out here. You can check that out, how to write the code and so on. Okay. So are we sorted for the practical, people? Yeah, you write on the paper. Yeah, then not, I've kept it like small itself. But have you understood, like, till abstract classes is something what you will have to do? Is that fine? Is that clear to you now? Okay. Yeah. Can you do one thing? Just add your roll number in the chat box. Okay. Okay. Please let me know once you are, like, all of you are done, because I will be closing the stream in 1 minute and I'm copying the comments from here to put it on my attendance sheet. Okay, then thank you so much. I have copied your attendance.